All right, welcome everyone to our monthly workshop series at the University of Kentucky, offered by the Office of Work Life and Benefits. Today, we're going to be talking about the work-life balance reality. This is going to be a good one. Today, we have Dr. Nichole Huff with us, and she's going to present on this topic for us. So thank you so much, Nichole, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. All right, so I'm going to just jump right in. I know these lunch and learns. If you're watching live, it's the lunchtime hour. I guess depending on what part of the state you're tuning in from, and so it's always exciting to join. And I chuckle to myself when I do this topic because I am a busy working mom, and so the work-life balance is real for me, and by no means get it right. I constantly have to recalibrate my routines, and so I enjoy presenting on this topic because it serves as a good reminder for me too, as it is a constant striving for balance. Or is balance a myth? Maybe, I don't know. We'll talk about that. But the information that I am bringing you is from the University of Kentucky FCS Extension Curriculum, Time Well Spent, Productivity Skills for Success, that I co-authored with several of my colleagues. And this has been a popular series, as I think we're all striving to be more productive, but also to do things that are good uses of our time, right? That there's a difference between busyness and productivity. And when we're busy and not productive, that can just wreak a little havoc in other parts of our lives as well. So, like I said, I'm Nichole Huff. I am an assistant extension professor for family finance and resource management in the School of Human Environmental Sciences. That's in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment. And I specifically am the state extension specialist for family finance and resource management. Okay, so what are we doing today? So today we are going to, over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to explore the relationship between workplace burnout, work-life balance, and productivity. We're going to look specifically at some personal and professional self-care strategies. We'll discuss some approaches for prioritizing our roles and responsibility and some tips to maintain productive routines. And then finally, we'll round out the time together with learning some steps that we can take when we're feeling overwhelmed. All right, so I am curious. Why did you sign up for this webinar? And then what are some things that keep you from being more productive? So, what do you hope to gain, and what keeps you from being more productive than you currently are? Just if you have access to the text chat, I'd love for you to just type in your responses. Stress, life. You were voluntold to attend. I love it. Being pulled in too many different directions or suggestions. Yeah, distractions. Too much going on and trying to prioritize. Yeah. Overscheduled. Yeah, burnout. Absolutely. Burnout can happen professionally. Being tired, overworked, right? Like I love that this week is Groundhog Day, tomorrow, I believe, because I feel like that old movie, right? That every day can start feeling some of the same. So I'm seeing, yes, solidarity, unpredictable needs, right? Some of that uncertainty, a toddler. Yeah. And thankfully, my youngest is not in the toddler stage, but deep empathy for anyone who is managing littles. Okay. Yeah, tearing away from work, needing balance. Okay. So let's talk about that. And I am going to, okay. So let's talk about that just a little bit more. what keeps us from being productive, and this idea of work-life balance. Okay, so first of all, I want to let's burst that bubble right away. That is it really a such thing? So the work-life balance scales are not like this, right? They are not equally weighted. Some days work gets your priority, the priority of your time. Sometimes life gets the priority of your time, and it's less of a balance and more kind of like a seesaw, right? Depending on the day, depending on the hour, depending on the need. And so rather than work-life balance, to me, I think it's more about work-life management. So how can we better manage our time, and how can we redefine productivity? So work-life balance is about how we prioritize our time and our energy between our work and our other life responsibilities. And so this idea of a weighted scale, to me and to what a lot of research indicates, is really a myth. And so let's maybe, as we talk together over this lunch hour, let's talk about redefining that. How can we establish some better management strategies? And also, how can we redefine productivity? So productivity, again, is not the same as being busy, right? It's accomplishing those things that we want to do. And some days that may look like taking a big old nap. Like that might be the best thing for your productivity, or it might be going to lunch with a friend or a loved one or a coworker. And so are you being intentional with your time, and are you setting out to do what you need to do? Okay, because work-life balance helps us avoid burnout, and some burnout has already come out in the chat pod. And so, having a healthy work-life balance, it means putting those management strategies into place. And so the World Health Organization defines professional burnout as chronic workplace stress that manifests itself as energy depletion or exhaustion, negative feelings towards your job, or reduced professional productivity. And so if your productivity is waning, is that an early sign of burnout? And so if you're struggling to be as productive as you would like on the job, and I'll kind of teeter between personal and professional, and interweave the two as much as I can. So, research suggests that having a healthy work-life balance is more important for your well-being and career success than nearly any other characteristic of your job. So, the having a better and a healthy work-life balance, again, looks like a seesaw, not going to be weighted, but having that flexibility over time that it levels out is a better predictor of success on the job. And so the healthier your work-life balance, you tend to be more engaged and present at work. You tend to take less time off because of sickness. You do have increased productivity, and you tend to stay with your employer longer. That's all important, right? Because, we're all here. We're affiliated with the university, and I know that the university prioritizes this work-life balance because in the end, it benefits the employer, but it also benefits the employee. So conversely, not having a healthy work-life balance can lead to insomnia, depression, anxiety, energy depletion, and just a myriad of things. So how can we begin to buffer that? And I hope you take away some strategies today that can help you buffer that. The first is to see time as a commodity, right? It is finite. It's like the money in our bank account. There's only so much of it, and it can only be stretched so far. And so how can we use time as a tool and not a couch. So we don't want to rest on our time, but we want to use it as a tool that, when invested wisely, can produce a return. And so we want to invest our time wisely. We want to spend our time well so that it benefits us physically and mentally and emotionally, and it benefits us as employees. So I mentioned that I'm the state specialist for family finance and resource management. So finances, I'm sure I have many other webinars on those as well lined up. But also, money is not our only commodity. Resources are a commodity. And resources, like our time, our energy, our relationships, our connections, these are very important to our vitality, and how we manage those things are also important to our success. Okay, so in examining your productivity, first thing you want to maybe examine is your proclivity to procrastinate. So, yeah, you can give me an emotion or put it in the text chat. Would you consider yourself to be a procrastinator? I would consider myself to be a procrastinator. It is how, as that is not. That doesn't surprise me. You are on top of it always. Um, yeah, I am. It is just how I'm wired. And so I really have to keep that in check. And so I see a balance. Some of you say, no, you don't procrastinate. You're very hyper fixated. My daughter, I have a 16-year-old, and she's in psychology and loving it this semester. She was talking to me about hyperfixation last night and diagnosing one of her friends. So love it. Okay, so some of you, it's contextual, right? You might procrastinate at home more than you do at work, and vice versa. So as we define productivity and procrastination, as I've mentioned, productivity is using our time efficiently towards completing intentional tasks. So productivity will look different for each of us, but it's about being intentional with our time and accomplishing what we're setting out to accomplish. Some days that might be little on a scale, right? If you're moving a needle forward, your needle might not move very far, but maybe you've made a big dent in something that you needed to do. So truly, you had a very productive day. All right, whereas procrastination is delaying a task or several tasks that should be prioritized. All right. So, as you know, when you're looking at, for those of you who say, yeah, I kind of am a procrastinator, procrastination really could be a sign of burnout, or it could be a sign that something more serious is going on. So, maybe it is a symptom of something emotional or physical, a need that is not being met. And our body uses procrastination as a form of protection. And so if you are a perfectionist, then maybe you are prone to anxiety. And again, I'm kind of describing myself here. You may procrastinate as a form of protection. And so we've heard of that fight, flight, freeze response. And so procrastination is an example of our mind and body freezing to protect ourselves. So emotional procrastination may include feeling overwhelmed. Some of you mentioned that always comes up when I ask, why do you procrastinate? People don't know where to start. They don't know what to start on, so they just don't start at all. Or maybe you are frustrated with something in your life that is bleeding into your personal or professional task. And so, you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed, you're bored, you're mad. Maybe you've had a fight with a kid on the way to school. And so by the time you get in the office, you just can't even think straight. And so maybe your emotions are playing in, or maybe your physical needs are playing in. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you didn't sleep well last night. Maybe you're fighting a cold. Maybe you are hangry. right? We our physical needs, if you're hungry, if if hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, it's the acronym HALT. If you find yourself procrastinating, maybe halt and ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? But is there a physical or emotional need that I need to tend to that is really it's a why I can't think straight? It's keeping me from focusing. Yeah, our health is really important. In the fall, I really was struggling with energy. I just felt like I had such low energy, and I thought that something was wrong, right? But we often want to not ascribe our energy levels to actual needs. Well, I talked to my physician, and it turned out I had anemia. So I was tired because there was something wrong with me that I needed to address. And that was affecting everything, right? And so you may need to, as you examine why your energy might be low, why you might be procrastinating or not as productive as you would like, examine things, communicate with someone, and try to get to the bottom of it. And maybe we just don't know where to start, right? It's an unclear deadline. Our role in a task is not certain. We, just don't really know how to do something that we're putting off. And so that uncertainty might be keeping us from moving forward. And so when we examine why we're procrastinating, we can get to some of the reasons why. Right. And so another thing, if you are beginning to feel just burnt out, if you are lacking energy, lacking motivation, procrastinating, or you're not as productive as you would like, examine your routines and or your lack thereof. So, how many of you have good routines? Like you go to bed at the same time, you wake up at the same time, you eat regular meals, you make time for that, you make time to exercise and to walk. Or how many of you struggle a little bit to make routines? 70-30, yeah. Right. So some maybe. And it may be better. Maybe your routines are better if you have the flexibility to work from home. Maybe you have better routines on the days you go into the office versus the days you are at home. Yeah, yep, agree. And so, but examining our routines also acts as a buffer for burnout because routines indicate predictability and our brains like predictability. Having consistency in our schedule reduces our feelings of being overwhelmed. It reduces our anxiety. So there's a lot to be said about routines. And so if any of you are listening or watching and are parents, right, that's one of the number one tips that we get is to put your child on a routine, a sleep routine, an eating routine, physical activity. It's something teachers do in the classroom. They put their big time charts up so kids know what's coming next. All right, so we're not very different, right? We're just all big kids. Essentially, we're all big kids. And so our brains still like routines. Routines let our brain know what to expect. It reduces some of that anxiety that comes from feeling overwhelmed or feeling uncertain about what's coming next. And so examine your routines, examine what's working well for you, what could work better, and that can help. And so maybe if you think your time is just all over the place, you're not really certain where it's going at the end of the day, take a minute, journal it. Like look at, okay, well, what did I actually do with my time? How much time did I sleep? When did I stop to eat? Am I trying to multitask? Have I gotten any physical activity? I am teaching a class this semester that is on health and well-being. And it's an education abroad class. And so at the end of the semester, myself and 24 others, 3 faculty, 22 students, we will head to Greece to examine the blue zone of Ikaria, and how these centenarians are living longer. What's their secret? All right, and it is fun. It is fun, but part of preparing ourselves for that immersive abroad experience is that we have to incorporate movement into our lives. And so nothing will keep you accountable like joining a step challenge where your students can see just how much physical activity is in your day. And one thing I realized is there is not a lot of physical activity in my day. And so my students can track my steps just like I can track theirs. And so I am trying to be intentional about exercise and about walking, because as a class, we are trying to collectively walk to Athens, um, in steps and miles by the time that we leave at the beginning of May. And so it's forcing me to examine some of my routines and yes, yeah. If you don't know what the blue zones are, and you have access to Netflix, check it out. There's a documentary called Live to 100. But routines are good for us. That's the point of this slide. But the same professional routine. So Azetta and I were chatting just while we were waiting to start the webinar on how our routines look different. We're in the office versus out. And so, do you have routines to make your day flow better? So are you packing your bag the night before, your lunch the night before? Do you know what you're going to wear? Is your get ready routine, is that conducive for productivity? Or is it so chaotic when you leave the house that by the time you step into the office, you don't know which way is up? The same thing with production. Are we taking the time to set up our office before we leave in the afternoon so that when we come back in the morning, it doesn't look like some kind of atomic bomb went off? Are we, getting out the things that we need before we sit down to do an activity? Do we create routines that make it easier for us to get going? So things like opening the blinds, as I mentioned, making a cup of tea, but those are part of our production routines. They signal to our mind that it's time to get going. So examining your production routines. Now, some of you indicated you don't pause, you don't stop, that you hyperfixate, right? That you don't pause. Well, pause routines are also important. Are you pausing in your day to get a breath of fresh air, to see the sunshine, to get something to eat when it's time to take a break? Are you pausing to give your mind and your body a chance to breathe, to recalibrate, so that you can come back focused during that next hour? And then are you pausing to play? So this might be having, enjoying coworkers' company, like going out to lunch or coffee. Yeah, pausing does make a lot of difference in feeling overwhelmed. But research says that Americans, more than any other country, especially westernized countries, we leave a lot of vacation time on the table. So we are not taking time to play with our families, to have fun, to seek joy. And we feel intense shame, research says, when we take time off. And so even if we've earned it, we feel like that we're doing something wrong. And so as we look at cultures who get it right, they take the time to play, they take the time to pause, and it makes a difference. Okay, so as we look at our routines and as we kind of track how our day is spent, also look at how your time is organized. Are there tasks that can be eliminated, delegated, or outsourced? So, if you're in a dual earning household, and in households, back in the 1950s, only one person worked. And so now most households, so maybe you're in a single parent household and you do everything, right? And maybe you're in a dual earner household and everybody works, or maybe whatever. Everybody's family structure looks very different, but no one person or two people can do it all. Society is so busy. And if you throw kids or animals in the mix, sometimes there's just not truly enough time, and we put higher expectations on ourselves than we can do. So what can you eliminate? What is it time to let go of? What can you outsource or delegate? Can you um I love, like, this teenage phase is best. Like, it is, they, my teenagers might not agree, but it is really great to delegate things to them as they, help out and contribute to the household. Um, but what about, what things can you automate? So whether it's a crock pot or a dishwasher or your bill pay, got notification today that a bill was paid on time, just before logging in, as it's the first of the month. But what things can you automate? Maybe it is grocery shopping, and you're using an online app to help automate that process. Um, then can you consolidate? Can you simplify where you can? So this goes back to that routine, those prep routines. Can you prep ahead of time your work, your skill, your meals, your laundry, batching your time? Are your clutter? We have a whole lesson in this curriculum on clutter and its effects on the brain. And so whether it's in your office, whether it's in your home, but consolidating, those things, and then communicating. And so if you get frustrated because you're not communicating your schedule, to your family, to your coworkers, if you're on a team and everybody kind of works at different rhythms, communication can be a very important tool in organizing our time, especially your personal time. And so, shared calendars, shared folders, shared notes, shared grocery accounts, communication can work for you, especially in a day of technology. Technology, it's not often my friend. It reminds me that I am getting older, as doesn't come as easy to me, but I am learning ways that I can use technology to better communicate with my teams, with my family. Okay, so minimizing distractions. Um, Schedules. Again, this came up in the text chat, but that your schedules feel very overrun. There's just enough time to do everything that is required of you. And so what of that is in your control? Can you set aside a few hours at the beginning of every day that you don't schedule meetings so that you can get things done? Can you save a day of the week where you're not on Zooms or on team meetings? How can you make your schedule work for you? Are you busy every night of the week and on weekends? But take a look at your schedule and realizing what you can let go, what you can batch, I tend to stack my meetings if at all possible, because if not, my whole day will be full. I will have gotten nothing accomplished. And it's okay to put yourself on the schedule. So if you're one that if it shows open on your calendar, somebody will swipe that time, go ahead and book it for yourself. Maybe it's for a project. I do this so that one, I don't feel guilty, right? Because America is a culture of shame. But I don't feel guilty when I say, sorry, I'm booked during that hour. Well, I am. It might be booked on a deadline or preparing a lecture for class, or might be working on a project that I've got to do, or maybe I'm just have a dentist appointment, right? But are you putting yourself into your schedule so that you can actually get things done? Escaping from emails. Turn off your notifications on your computer, on your phone. You do not need to see every time an email comes in. That people can wait for your response. That batching your time. And so, doing email maybe in the morning or at lunch or in the evening, but setting aside a time to respond to emails so that it doesn't become this black hole of time, this sinkhole that you can't escape from. And then social sabotage, right? Like, I love when I can work from home. It can be isolating. So I love when I work in the office. But when I'm in my office and someone sees my light on, it is the stop in, say, hey, and then it turns into 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Or I feel like sometimes social sabotage can distract me from getting things done. And so this is another thing that it's hard to balance, because we want to be collegial. We want to talk with our coworkers. Also, social media can sabotage our time. So you may take a minute to scroll through social media, and that minute turns into a few minutes, and then it turns into where has the time gone? So instead, these are not bad things. They are bad things when they distract you from doing better things. So maybe it is having a standing coffee date with a coworker, having a standing lunch date, so that you can socialize, but it's not distracting you when you need to be working. Or again, maybe it's after I work for 15 minutes, then I will check, not 15 minutes. Sorry, that would not be good. After I work for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, then I will take 15 minutes, stretch, check social media, check email, get a coffee, those types of things. And I've touched on a lot of these, this idea of managing your task. And so tracking, a lot of science behind writing things down and crossing them off our to-do list. So I will put things on my calendar in a different color. So purple are the things that I need to accomplish, and then I can delete them when I've accomplished them. And it helps me track what I'm accomplishing, feel productive, and it lets me know where my time is going. Deconstructing is taking a larger task and breaking it down into manageable pieces. Batching, I've mentioned this, it's taking things that are like and doing them at the same time. And so email at the same time. I had 3 or 4 recommendation letters to write earlier this week. And so I personalize them, right, for all of my students or people that I write recommendation letters for. They're all very similar. So I batched my time to do it together, did it kind of like an assembly line where I got my letterheads together. And these seem simple, but what it did is it allowed my mind to focus on tasks that were alike at the same time, and I knocked it out. And then targeting is, focusing on tasks that move you closer to your goal. So, setting aside 30 minutes and I'm going to work on X project and doing that. Okay, so time management is one way to reduce burnout, but also taking care of ourselves is an important tool in increasing our productivity and reducing burnout. And it can serve as that buffer. And so we'll talk kind of as we round out our time together on some techniques for practicing personal and professional self-care. And so, the first is engaging our senses. So, we have 5 senses, and if we are only engaging our eyes, staring at a computer all day long, we are not enjoying the beauty of the sunshine. We are not embracing the food of a good meal if we're just grabbing something quickly and eating it in between Zoom meetings. Some of you may be eating now. But are we engaging our senses? And so maybe that's getting out into nature. Maybe you have a pet. I have, in the last year, we have become a dog parents. And that was really smart with 3 children. Because it has added a level of chaos to our routines and disrupted several of our routines. But pets can also be a great way to engage your senses. So, cuddling with that pet, loving, these are ways to care for ourselves. Maybe at the end of the day, taking a warm shower, a warm bath, but physically helping yourself relax. All right, so cultivating creativity. So, hobbies, a lot of research supports this notion that hobbies are so good for us. Doing something that we want to do because it inspires our creativity. So maybe it is art or gardening or, quilting, crafting, maybe you're a woodworker, even coloring. So maybe just get yourself an adult coloring book. But are you engaging your creativity with something that you are producing? And so, if we veg out at the TV on the TV sometimes, that's good occasionally, but what that's not doing is recharging our batteries. And so are you getting your creativity juices flowing? And in that same notion, do you pursue happiness? Right? I mean, there's movies dedicated to the pursuit of happiness. And but we forgo that a lot because of busyness and because of competing work-life demands. So we're not doing anything that just makes us happy. And it doesn't have to be big things, right? It might be that garden that you've started. It might be that cup of coffee that truly is your happy place during a stressful day. But are you taking the time to play, to schedule vacations, to go out with a friend, to watch a movie that just makes you laugh or makes you cry, but that helps spark happiness? Are you taking the time for that? Practicing gratitude. And so research says that, hey, those people who practice gratitude tend to sleep better at night. So maybe you're struggling with insomnia. Start journaling before you go to bed and make yourself write down 3 good things that you're thankful for. And maybe, you're thankful that you didn't let a coworker know exactly what was on your mind. They could be small places to start. But when we begin to recognize the things that are going well, we see that there are always exceptions to our problems. And that sometimes if it is quite simply the breath in your lungs, that's a really good place to start, right? And it sounds simple, but practicing gratitude can help improve our mental capacity, our outlook. It can reduce some of those stressors that are weighing us down. Are we challenging our minds? And so, if it's Sudoku or a word puzzle, or you're learning a foreign language, or you're reading, I did see a stat recently that Americans are reading more than they have in recent years, which is exciting. But are you doing things to engage your mind outside of work, to keep your mind sharp? Something that challenges you in some way, learning a new craft, learning a new hobby, learning a language, but doing something that keeps your mind sharp, or physical. Maybe it's taking on an exercise challenge. All right, centering yourself. This kind of goes hand in hand with gratitude. But what do you do when you need to take a deep breath? How do you bring yourself? Maybe that's prayer or meditation or going for a walk or yoga. But what are you doing to ground yourself? And there's actually grounding, putting your feet to the earth, walking outside barefoot. But what do you do to help center yourself when your life feels very chaotic? Embracing your emotions. So, do you let yourself laugh? Do you let yourself cry? That sometimes crying can be very cathartic. And so maybe you are not letting yourself take a deep breath. You are not letting yourself exhale. And so, how can you embrace your emotions so that your body can feel that release, so that you can recalibrate to start the next day? All right, being body conscious. This doesn't have anything to do with what the mirror says, right? But it's going back to that, that hangry, that those emotional or physical needs. Are you listening when your body is saying you need rest, you need food, you need socialization? Are you listening to the cues? And our bodies give us cues for what we need to be doing more of. And because your body's going to tell you whether you like it or not. And this really happened for me in the fall. I had some health scares, and so your body's going to let you know. Listen when it whispers, don't make it yell. So being body conscious and socialize. We have talked about this. We are not meant to live on islands. We are meant to be social people. Although, I wouldn't mind living on an island with other people, like Hawaii or Iguria. Rubik's Cube. So yeah, anything like that. Okay, and then last, professional self-care. So what are we doing to also take care of ourselves on the job? And so, you coming to webinars, to lunch and learns, to doing things like this is kind of that first box, fueling your craft, right? So, fueling your craft. So what are you doing? Are you reading books to help you become better at whatever it is you're skilled to do? Are you going to conferences that help you become better? Are you keeping up licensures? How are you staying ahead of what it is that you do? Like we all probably have very different roles at the university, or just in our careers, but how are you fueling what brought you to that job, that career, that craft in the first place? How can you do it better? Because when we are staying on the edge of what we do, it can get us excited about what we do. All right, so establishing clocking out routines. This is similar to those production routines, right? Like it's important to signal to our mind to start our day, but it's very important to signal to our mind to stop our day. And in our always on technology, that anyone can get a hold of us, that we feel bad or guilty for putting up an away message when we go on vacation with our family or we take a day off. The same thing is true at night. So what do you guys do to clock out? So do you have something that you do to signal to your mind that it is time to stop working? And these can be very simple. So maybe you play a certain song on Bluetooth on your drive home. Maybe you change into comfy clothes. You go to sleep. All right. So, maybe it is just stepping away from the desk. Yeah. But if you don't, straighten your books, use the restroom. Yes. So figure out what your clocking out routine is. But it is something that signals to your brain it is time to shift from work to home. So if it's turning off notifications, if it's not checking your email, if it's going for a walk with your dog when you get home, if it's changing out of business clothes into comfy clothes, but what can you do to clock out? Maybe it's, so some of these can be healthier than others, and I think everything in moderation. But is a glass of wine a way to clock out? Is going to the gym a way to clock out? But what does your clocking out routine look like so that your brain knows, hey, I can let down my guard? Your dogs and pets can be great for our routines. Recognizing your stress. This is the same thing, listening to your body. And so this is important on the job as well. If you find yourself getting snippy with coworkers, okay, why? If you feel yourself less productive, why? And so looking at some of these things as symptoms of larger things. Yeah, absolutely. Love the text chat. All right. So taking time for yourself, we talked about it, pause and play routines. Having time that we're not always on the clock so that we can recoup, recalibrate. And then communicating. Are you talking with team members, colleagues, supervisors, if things are beginning to get overwhelming? So maybe it's communicating to get certainty on those tasks that are uncertain or unclear, or where your role is unclear. Maybe it's communicating that, hey, I'm juggling a lot in my personal life right now, and I need the space to work this out, so that there is an explanation for why you might be off your game in the office, but communicating. Okay. And let's see, I think, I don't know if, I think my camera is off, so I don't know if Azetta has it where you can see me or not, but I'll turn it on just in case. All right. So if you can't see me, I have in my hand a rubber ball, right? And so if I were to drop this ball, then it would bounce, right? In theory. So you drop a rubber ball bounces. All right. But if I were juggling a glass ball and I dropped it, what would happen? Rhetorical question, right? It would break. All right. And so we are all juggling tasks all the time. And so what we have to do is figure out, is this something that is rubber? Is this ball rubber or is this ball glass? So if I were to drop this ball, would it bounce and I can just pick it up, or would it break? Now, you're likely juggling many things, both professionally and personally at the same time. And so, like, if my kid is sick, that's a glass ball. And if I were to drop it, it could break, right? Or maybe you're caring for an aging parent, or maybe you're caring for yourself. And so your priorities might look different depending on the day or the need or the season of your life. All right. Again, I'm a procrastinator. So yesterday was January 31st. I had a few things due on January 31st. And so I was working past closing time last night. My husband likes to joke with me about how long I have known about certain deadlines. And it never fails. All right. But so those were some glass balls. If I were to miss those deadlines, some of them I would not get redos on. So I had to, I couldn't let those balls drop. But other things I could. Some things, it's okay to drop a rubber ball. Because what you don't want is to drop everything at once. And you don't want to drop something that you can't just pick back up. So if you're feeling stressed one day, if you feel like you've got a lot going on, ask yourself, all right, is this rubber or is this glass? And then juggle accordingly. All right, and then we'll just finish up our time with talking about what to do if you're sinking in to-dos. All right, so we want to first calm yourself down. When you feel overwhelmed, again, it's not just in your head, it's physiological. And our heart starts racing, our blood pressure goes up. We might be freezing or flighting or fighting. But the first thing you can do is to just take a deep breath and calm yourself. Maybe get up from your computer, get that cup of coffee, that cup of tea, that piece of chocolate. Maybe go for a quick walk around your building. Go say hello to a coworker. Do something that helps to calm yourself. Then create a list of what things, what is overwhelming me? What are these things that I need to do? For me, this is me saying, okay, what is due before close of day, end of day on January 31st? And what can we move to February 1st or February 5th or February 15th? But creating a list and then identifying what are your main concerns. What is most important? Paying that bill, feeding your family, doing that doctor's appointment, meeting that deadline. But what are the main concerns? And then looking at your calendar and figuring out, okay, realistically, when can I do this? I have a meeting now, I can't do it, but I can squeeze it in here, or I can move it to another day on my calendar. And then once you have dispersed your list, start on your most critical item. What needs my attention? I joke, air quotes, I joke with my colleagues and people who I interact with that I am a deadline to deadline girl. Like, I have to prioritize the next deadline on my list, right? That's the most critical. And so I'll get to it in order of deadlines. And if I were to add a sixth thing to this list, it again would be communicate. Communicate to your family, to your teammates. If you start to feel like you're sinking, let someone know, right? Don't mask it, because that can impact us physically, emotionally. It can hurt our teamwork, whether we're on the job. It can impede our family. Okay. That's it. That's what I have for you. And just, I love this quote, that productivity is never an accident. It's always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and a focused effort. And again, it's never achieved, right? Like every day, We can do things differently, and that productivity is accomplishing what we want to accomplish, and those goals can look very different. Okay, so we have just a minute or two. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments if you have them.